Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Abnormal Voyages. My name is David, and today we find ourselves in Cameron, West Virginia. Here in the outskirts of this small state, we're here to investigate a place that is purely devoted to demons and spirits. So tag along as we explore the Archive of the Afterlife.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's Abnormal Voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's Abnormal Voyages.
The Archive of the Afterlife was founded in 2011 and has been featured on several different TV programs, many of which have been on the Travel Channel. Right from the moment you enter, the mood is set and you can really feel the different energies that radiate throughout this museum. You'll definitely want to make sure that you set aside plenty of time when you come visit the archive, just for the sheer magnitude of how many items they have here. It's astounding that every corner is filled with different haunted objects. There's even a whole collection of actual bricks from some of the most famous haunted and possessed buildings in the entire world. Who knows what tragedies and secrets these bricks may have witnessed. Nobody's quite sure why spirits or energies attach to the things that they do, but it's nice that there's a place where all of those items can be brought together. Here, you can even find a collection of soil samples from famous graves, including all of the victims of Jack the Ripper. The museum is expansive, and we don't want to give away all the secrets, but let's take a quick tour and hit some of the highlights of what you'll find here at the Archive of the Afterlife. One of our first major rooms, this is dedicated to military service, wars, and just a little bit about famous penitentiaries. The West Virginia Penitentiary is one of the bloodiest prisons of all time. So many people met their end here. With such a tragic history, it stands to reason that there are plenty of ghosts walking the halls of that prison still. One famous apparition is that of the Shadow Man. This is the actual camera that the famous photograph was taken on. And here are some blown up prints where you can see the Shadow Man himself right there on the side. Talk about being in the right place at the right time to get that picture-perfect shot. One of the actual prison cell doors has also found a new home here in the archive, along with pictures of the chair that ended so many criminals' lives. There's no doubt some dark energy surrounding the items from this prison. Other items in this room include some prisoner of war tags that date back to World War II. These were found in what is now Bavaria. And then some items from actual battlefields on a Lithuania battlefield. These are some old German helmets. You can even see the different wear and tear on them there. And something very unique, these are portable anesthesia machines that were used out in the battlefield before they would perform surgery on wounded soldiers. Of course, this kind of thing goes hand in hand with religion, so this room is full of different religious artifacts, things relating to that, and this casket in particular has seen a lot of activity in this room. A lot of times people hear scratching and even see it moving a little bit. Very odd. The feelings of loss and grief that are present at a funeral are some of the strongest emotions people will feel in their lives. So it just makes sense that there's a lot of energy attached to almost anything having to do with somebody's end of life. This room contained several funeral items, such as the casket that we spoke about a minute ago, and other things that came from different churches and funeral homes that people certainly looked to either find hope or maybe a little bit of comfort in their most trying times. Here was another casket on display, but as you'll notice, it is much smaller because this was used for when somebody sadly lost a child. The cross is possibly the most famous symbol in the entire world, and there is certainly an abundance of them here, just like you would find in any church. Let's move on.
In this room there are several items that have had activity and different energies attached to them, but nothing negative. So this is kind of neutral to possibly even good energies, so they don't need to be kept anywhere secret or anything. They're just in here to all kind of hang out.
Talking boards, or Ouija boards, have always been very popular for reaching out to try to speak to the spirits on the other side. These have a bit of energy attached to them here, as well as all of these items that are put on the shelves. The majority of these have all been donated or sent in by people who've come across them and not really known what to do with them themselves. A little hidden gem in this closet, there's actual hair strands from Marie Laveau, who was, of course, the voodoo queen of New Orleans. Certainly a powerful figure in the spirit world. A very interesting item. This is The Footbook by Dr. Seuss, and supposedly it may have the spirit of a little girl attached to it. There is a possibility that she unfortunately was murdered at a very young age, and that in life this was one of her favorite books, so she still kind of hangs around with it and loves for anybody that feels like reading it out to her.
And no haunted museum would be complete without a room of some very creepy looking dolls.
Something about dolls just really seems to attract spirits. I can tell you that standing in this room certainly felt different than other rooms of the house, that there was just a lot of really weird feelings going on. Almost every doll in here was, again, one that was donated by somebody. They'd come across it somewhere, and strange things would start happening, or they'd still feel really weird every time around it, and they just didn't want it around anymore. So they would donate it here, and they've come to find a home here. Just like Charlie, this ventriloquist dummy who has this nice red chair here. The majority of the spirits that are attached to the dolls here probably don't mean any harm, and they've never been reported to do anything too dastardly. They're just a little misunderstood, and sometimes people don't want that kind of thing in their house, which is understandable. So it's great that they're able to be brought here, where maybe somebody can someday help them to find peace and to move on to whatever their next stage should be. And until that day, they certainly make for some very, very interesting things to check out and a really cool room in this haunted museum. During our visit here, we actually ran into a family full of budding paranormal investigators. And, thankfully, they agreed to take a little bit of time to talk to us about what they were doing. So, a really cool thing they actually do here is allow people to come in and kind of hold some little investigations of their own. You can book it overnight sometimes so that you can actually spend the entire evening here, or you can just pop by and see what you can scare up. We actually ran into some investigators while we were here. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Fantastic. So what are your names?
My name's Isaac.
Isaac.
I'm Lisa.
Well, thank you for talking to us a little bit. I see you guys have some really cool equipment here and things. What are these?
This is actually a EMF detector that has a laser light and flashlight. Our leader from the paranormal group that we're with has actually built this. It also has a battery indicator and a positive and negative ion indicator. Right now, I'm sitting at the number of a little short.
Can I see it really quick?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is really cool. Here, I'll show you this. This is what they got going on there. A nice meter. And so this actually helps you, I guess, see if there's spirits nearby or energy. What is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Have you guys seen any lights going off or anything? Oh, there's right there.
I was heard.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're the ghost. Congratulations. Have y'all detected any activity or anything while y'all been walking around? Oh, the dog. They're very creepy. I understand that.
It's very creepy.
Oh, wow. So it looks like it's going off right now. Maybe that's somebody else that wants to be on the camera. So, hello, ghost. Welcome to the show.
There's been a lot of battery power loss. Yeah.
Really?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Kind of like draining the battery faster than normal?
Yeah.
We started at 7.
Wow. And then what is it at now? It's at the 663? Is that the...
Yeah.
Wow, so that has gone down quite a bit. How long you haven't been in here that long, so
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy. And I see you have your cameras here. Are these anything special or just regular cameras?
Yeah, this is just a regular camera I just picked up not too long ago, so I'm still trying to learn how to use it.
Hey, you got to start somewhere, right? And then I love this. This is a GoPro, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Just
Try and see if you can catch anything, right? So do you
Yeah.
guys actually go back and review all your footage afterwards and just seeing if there's any, like, what do you look for when you're doing that?
Yeah, just anything that come across, anything that's abnormal, you know, whether it be sometimes entities will come across in your thoughts, you know,
Like, I think I've seen things where like orbs or
Yes,
things like
orbs,
that
yeah.
that are just like weird directionals and
yes,
and then I guess using something like, oh wow, it's going off right now.
yeah,
See, so we got the somebody doesn't like us talking about orbs, or they do like it and they want us to keep going.
yeah.
Well, that is fascinating. We don't want to hold up your investigation, but maybe sometime we can join you guys for an overnight and see what we find.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's super cool seeing how the paranormal can bring people together from all different walks of life. But now, it was time for us to finally enter the dark room.
And our last room, this is the one that has the strongest amount of activity and possibly demonic items or things with spirits attached to them. So we're going to very carefully head in here. I have this one double latched, just to show you how serious this is.
It's hard to describe what it was like entering this room. It may seem a little cliched, but it truly felt like something otherworldly. There was a lot of apprehension and anxiety and different pulls from different parts of the room. Any item that had caused unfortunate things to happen or were proven to be of possibly demonic ascent were all here together, safely in this room, where nobody had to go into if they didn't want to. It was definitely optional, and it was very interesting seeing the different items that were collected here. One item in particular that had a very strong energy to it was actually put away in this closet. It was a mirror that at one time had been in a family cabin, and it has been possibly the cause of many gruesome deaths of male members of the family. They hypothesize it could even be a portal to the spirit realm. As with all museum items, but even more so in this kind of field, it was very important to be very respectful of the items in here and kind of keep your distance and not interact with them too much. Everything here had its own story and history behind it, and being in this room, unfortunately most of those stories were of the gruesome and melancholy side of things. It's truly fascinating that a lot of these items on their own would just be kind of interesting little knickknacks, but once they're put with the spirits and the energy, it becomes a completely different thing. Such as this here. This is Hope the doll, who is kept in a case for everybody's safety. This has been one of the highest demonic activity items in the entire museum. To find out a little bit more about everything here at the museum, we decided we needed to go to an expert, the owner. I am here with Steve, who is the owner of this wonderful Archive of the Afterlife. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us. We love the place.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad you guys stopped in and
was actually about ready to call it an early day.
Oh.
We were the first ones to actually come through today.
It's a little bit of a trick, but I think it was worth it, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it.
So, out of curiosity, what kind of got you started doing this kind of thing?
Well, a lot of the being interested in like the paranormal probably starts off pretty cliche with everyone else's. Some early experiences in your childhood and so on and so forth. We won't delve too deep into that. But I started getting more into the paranormal after becoming a tour guide at the former West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I met two of my best friends, Ryan Zackrell and Dave Gear. We were members of Dave Gear's mom's Polly's paranormal group called Mountaineer Paranormal. And then short story, getting to the nitty-gritty of it, we started our own little off-branch of that called Paranormal Quest. And started the investigation part of it that way. Some of the items came from our investigations that way. But also during the same time, I had a gym and fitness center and also had a diner.
Okay.
And the diner had a poker room. And in the poker room, after a trip to Gettysburg with Ryan and Dave, got the inspiration from a location there to start a little paranormal-based museum there in Moundsville.
And that was out of where you had your poker room and everything?
Yeah, I didn't want to do poker machines. There's too much drama with that. And started collecting people's experiences, opinions on the paranormal and stuff like that. Typed them out nice and neat, framed them, put them up on the wall so when people would come in to eat, I can say, okay, we're going to get to making your food. If you want, go check out the complimentary museum. There's stuff to read in there. We'll come get you when your meals are ready. That's kind of how it started. So I technically started the museum off on $50.
Wow.
And some people saying that it's a stupid idea, you shouldn't do it, it's creepy, which is fine. I like creepy stuff, so I always have that creepy stuff. I think one of the other things that kind of got my interest into the paranormal and ghost stuff would have to be Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack.
Oh, such a good show.
Yeah, and then of course before that was the Goosebumps stuff when I was in grade school by R.L. Stein.
Always a favorite.
Yeah. So a lot of things I think contributed to being interested in.
So it sounds like kind of like a lifetime building up to culminate in this.
Yeah. Looking back, hindsight's 20/20. There's a lot of factors that I feel that got me, took me down this path. Well, plus I've always liked Halloween. I've always liked, the
kind of spooky ambiance.
Yeah, ever since I was a kid. Yeah.
Very cool. So out of everything you have here, if you had to pick, what would you say is your favorite item?
My favorite item is not here. I took it home. I said a little bit earlier we had some people next door looked to be kind of unsavory and was worried about people trying to get five-finger discounts, if you will, some items.
I mean, you wouldn't want to lose it. This stuff is literally irreplaceable, so
yeah,
definitely
a lot of it
understand
is. A lot of it's very fragile. But the one item I did take home was a portrait of a woman named Annie. I had known about her picture before I even had the museum. There was an antique shop up in Wheeling, and just adding this in here, I've always been very sensitive, very in tune with spirit energy, if you will.
Okay.
So I'd always go up to this antique shop, which had multiple vendors, to buy World War II items. I've always liked to collect military items. But as I would go to this shop, I would always see this one particular picture at another vendor as I would have to walk past it to get to the military items. And I'd always find myself kind of stopped and fixated on this portrait of this young lady. And then once I opened the museum, the first thing I thought of was like, I had to have this portrait. Because I was curious. I want to see if other people would actually...
See if they had any kind of connections?
Yeah.
Or...
I'm as curious as most people when they come in here. Because it's kind of nice hearing or seeing other people help affirm what you picked up on personally.
Without you telling them about it or whatnot, you're like, hey, it's not just me.
Yeah, that's why when we did the tour, I say I want to get you acquainted with the building and I'll let you guys get free roam. That's how we do it. We don't like to force feed a story down your throat and then say, okay, you have to believe this, and people are what's going on unconsciously agree with you.
Right.
People find out for themselves. You know what I mean? That's what what I've always liked.
It's definitely more genuine, I think, the experience that way, that it comes naturally with what you're feeling.
If I had it my way, I'd make you guys go through with flashlights.
That'd be neat. That could be an event of its own.
Yeah. I had to do that at the original location once. Starting off not having a lot of income coming in, and there was a few days the power was off. as broke as a joke. But what I did is I went to the dollar store and bought a bunch of those little $1 LED flashlights.
Yeah.
And I told people come in and says, hey, when we investigate, it's in the middle of the night, it's dark. You guys getting flashlights and you're going to go through the museum. You know what? At that time frame, it was just tip money for the museum. That's all it went off of because I had the diner going on in the other building.
Right.
I was getting tipped 5, 10s, and 20s.
See, that is an entrepreneur spirit right there.
You got to think outside the
Turning
box.
a problem into...
But back to the Annie picture. So, long story short, once I started the museum, wanted to have it, went back to get it. That vendor was entirely vacated, gone.
Wow.
So at that point, you know, in a person's life, which happens to everybody at some point, you want something you can't have. You know what I mean? So I was pretty down about it because I felt very connected to it, to the energy. So a few visits later, going back through the antique shop to get back to the military section to have a problem. Yeah, buying stuff that's military.
There's worse things to be addicted to.
It's true. It's true. I noticed the vendor as I was walking up towards the area where the vendor was at. It was still empty, but as I walked directly in front of it and looked to my right, all the way back against the wall was that portrait leaning against the wall all by itself. So maybe it was misplaced at one time, brought back. I don't know. I don't know how that happened, worked out, but that's the date that I bought the picture.
Didn't worry about the details. You were just like, gotta grab it.
No, and then within 2 years doing research, because on the back of the picture, at one point I got enough courage to do it because I was worried about it falling apart. It was so old. It had her first, middle, maiden last name, marriage last name, her birth date, her parents' names, her 2 daughters' names, and the date the picture was taken. So
everything you would need to find out more about her.
Except the one date of her death was wrong. So in Ancestry, after working with the genealogist at the Marshall County Library, they found out that instead of her dying in 1956, she actually died in 1966.
Oh.
So when that was all said and done, we were even able to find out where she's buried. So we go up,
incredible.
We go up here and there periodically, especially right before Christmas, and we visit her up in Wellsburg, about an hour north.
Wow.
So, and the one thing that's interesting, though, everybody always reported feeling very sad around her up until we did that. We went up the first time we was able to first find out where she's buried, which was an interesting experience. My friends and I, Mike and Will, 2 volunteers, we went up to the cemetery and tried to follow the directions of what the older gentleman that was part of the organization who ran the cemetery, the directions he gave us. We couldn't find her. Something great. All those 2 years, I'm actually grumbling. I'm actually getting a little irritated. So I said, listen, guys, start down here because it was a pie-shaped cemetery on a hillside.
Okay.
So I'm going to go all the way to the top and work my way down, and then we'll try to meet in the middle. Okay. So as I'm walking up the road to start at the top, I remember saying to myself, I said, please, God, just let me be the first one to find her if she's here. Because this has been 2 years. That'd be closure.
Some validation for your feelings. And
I took no more than maybe 20 paces ahead, and I looked and I saw on a stone that said Ledger. And I'm like, that sounds familiar. That's her ex-husband's last name.
Okay.
And on the back of the picture it had Annie Marie DeGarmo Ledger was on the back. So I'm thinking, maybe that's the ex-husband's family.
Sure.
And I'm thinking in the back of my head, who gets buried with their ex-husband then anyway? You know what I mean? But apparently, her grave was purchased while she was married.
Oh, okay.
So I looked down after about 20 paces, and there's her grave, like right there in front of me.
Wow.
Buried right next to one of her 2 daughters, Lila. Now, Pearl, the other daughter, was buried with her husband, same county, but at a different cemetery, Franklin Cemetery. And Pearl's was a much more sadder situation because Pearl actually committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
And her husband, Annie's husband, Matt, after being divorced, had fallen, hit in his head, and died of a hemorrhage. So there's a lot of sadness with,
just with that family?
With her family, too. So, but, she actually got to spend Halloween at my friend's, Justin and his wife Vicky's new house.
Okay.
And I think she had a lot of fun, being that we had to take her out of here just so I'm very picky with her portrait. So
after all that work that went into it, I understand.
And I figured if people are going to come in and try to steal something, they might be the type of people that just like to ramshack places too. So I try to think of everything. So she indirectly she got to spend Halloween with us.
I bet she enjoyed
We had a
that.
lot of fun. It was in an old. Justin and Vicky purchased one of the second oldest house left in Moundsville, built in 1830s.
Oh, neat.
So it was a fun Halloween.
A lot of
fun
history there,
Halloween.
I'm sure.
Yes. So
Did you ever find out what happened to Annie?
I think she died of old age, from what I've been able to ascertain so far.
And then ever since you guys went to visit her, those kind of feelings of sadness connected with her kind of dissipated?
Yeah, because I've always told her, I said, you don't have to stay here. You can come and go as you please. I know, well, not so much now because that portrait in the case behind them over there is where Annie normally is.
Okay.
That's just one we put in there just so it doesn't look empty. But she would always stop in from time to time.
Nice. Sounds like she really, found a comforting home with you guys.
Yeah, and I think that really helped her. I really think that helped her out a good bit. And a lot of the items, except for the dark room, as we went through earlier, I don't treat them like it's a circus or sideshow. I said, guys, I'm not the type of person that said you have to stay here. I'm going to bind you per se.
Gotcha.
I said you're here because people were uncomfortable with you. They don't understand you because some people just don't understand or feel comfortable around spirit energy. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that they're not coping.
Because it's something so different from what they're used to in their everyday.
Paranormal. Doesn't make it bad. Doesn't make it bad.
Just out of the normal.
Right. But the items like I have in the dark room, those items they're there for a reason. They're there to keep them out of the populace.
Right. Give them kind of a safe place of their own.
Right.
So speaking of that, have you had any events, any occurrences happen here in the museum to yourself or to other people that kind of jump to your mind?
Yeah, there's been some pretty nasty things happen, especially up in the dark room. A good friend of mine, Sean Austin, he was on the just recent former show called Ghost Loop.
Okay.
He was also, I think he was on the old show Demon Files. A good friend of mine, he and his friend Eric were here a couple times, and they were focused pretty much one-on-one with the Hope doll upstairs. And there were some pretty nasty EVPs captured, which I won't mention. We'll just censor it. One of the names that actually came through on their EVP was.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
It sounds kind of intense.
And if I hadn't have been there, I'm like, I'll give normally people the benefit of the doubt, but when it comes through an S box and it's a Class A, it's a little different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's been multiple people on day tours after I tell them, the dark room, it's an optional room. You don't have to go in there. No one's forced to do anything.
Sure.
But there are people left that have been pushed, scratched, and things like that.
Wow.
Felt where they have pressure on the chest, hard to breathe. Some people won't even force themselves to go into the room. They'll go right to the door.
Like they want to go in, but then they just can't do it.
Yeah, they'll go to the door and just look around the corner, and that's it. It's not for everybody.
Wow.
It's not for everybody.
It definitely adds a kind of foreboding in a way, but very interesting.
Yeah, what you picked up on earlier.
Yeah, definitely. When I was in there, that kind of just a lot of mix of emotions, and like you were saying around that Hope doll, that in particular is very.
We have recorded on video on my friends and I's YouTube channel, Paranormal Quest. There's a part 1 and part 2 called Hope the Demonic Doll, part 1, part 2.
Wow.
On the first one, we recorded her moving about 8 to 10 inches. not in peripheral sight.
Yeah.
Directly on the doll.
If you want to pause here to go see that video, definitely.
Yes. One was on the SLS cam, and one was on a regular IR camera. I don't do this a lot, but because I know Dave and Ryan and Jason, I did this for them. I did it for Sean because I know he deals with
this kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. We took her out of the case, and then we put her in that black chair that's in there. That's actually our seance chair. No people sit in that chair. That's for the guests.
Okay.
The ethereal guest, if you will.
Understandable, yeah.
And so we took her out and sat her up in the chair. And you can't bend her legs. Her legs are stationary. They're
the way that she's kind of manufactured.
Yeah. So we sat her in the chair, and the chair was kind of right directly in front of the window. We kind of moved it a little bit that way when we set up our cameras, we had the best shots possible.
Right.
And at one point, you'll see me go, is she moving or something? Now, what I thought, we kind of kind of wrote it off as a light outside just passed over her face, creating the illusion of movement. But it turns out that time is when she actually moved.
Wow.
Because when we investigate, it's pitch black.
Right.
Pitch black in the room. And I noticed the entire evening after that, because we all... Actually, this time, only one of us, it was just me, normally do a half hour to a full hour solo mission. So, I did my solo mission. No one else really didn't have time to. So they were out here waiting on the porch, real quiet, because we didn't have a lot of room for them to go down the street. Everything was closed.
Of course.
So they latched me into the door, into the room up there by myself. So I was up there for about a half hour, 40 minutes by myself, and it was an interesting feeling. Like, you constantly felt like whatever was attached to her or the doll itself was going to just latch out, as you're sitting there. So I was sitting in the chair, and about 4 or 5 feet in front of me was the Hope doll in the chair.
That's intense.
And one thing I started feeling, I will say, is I started growing very, very irritated, like very, very angry.
Just out of nowhere, just kind of.
It just started to affect, and it'll actually do that. So most people feel heaviness of chest, hard to breathe. A lot of times, if I'm around that type of energy, I get very irritated,
Right.
because I don't like it.
It's uncomfortable.
You don't like it. So you're either a fight or flight type of person, and I'm too slow to run.
I can relate to that.
So, but yeah, she's Hope's an interesting one. I would say multiple experiences with the Hope doll definitely stand out.
That's definitely one of the key things that people are.
Yeah. Her, a couple of the dolls in the doll room, the Charlie doll, the ventriloquist doll that's in the red chair.
Yes.
The effigy doll. She moved multiple times at the original location that I removed her from, and once at the school, the community center, former location we used to be at.
It's interesting that it seems dolls in particular tend to attract, I think, a lot of energy, or, I wonder if there's any kind of
Well, a lot of
reason
time,
behind that.
originally, from my understanding, which could be limited compared to others watching, dolls originally were created to be vessels for souls.
Okay.
In many different cultures, if you will, they were made to be vessels.
So maybe they did their job a little too well in some cases?
Yeah. And I think a lot of cases, especially with malevolent cases or demonic cases, however you want to look at it, a lot of times those type of entities will harbor in an item or a vessel that's very unassuming, or one that people would normally welcome into their house.
Like a child's toy.
Yeah, like in most demonic cases, you'll find out that people are reporting, well, I see like a little girl, this little boy. Well, they're going to want you to accept them. They're going to want you to feel comfortable around them. It's the whole Trojan horse concept. That looks great. Let's welcome in the city. And the next thing you know, it's chaos.
So it comes into your house, you accept it, and you all start kind of getting attached to it, as allowing it as part of the family, part of the household.
Because you got to remember, in a lot of cases like that, especially the dark stuff, they're not on your time. You're on their time. And there's no aspect of time on the other side. It's relevant. Basically. So that's just one thing to be leery of, especially when collecting. Because people ask me all the time, how do you have this stuff? Does it bother you having this stuff? Do you spend a lot of time by yourself here? And I'm like, well, sometimes yeah, and sometimes yeah, and sometimes yeah, But for me, through scripture, through prayer, I know who has my back, so I don't worry about it.
Allows you to have that kind of confidence and protection going into it.
I wouldn't say the confidence is always there, but I'm human.
Something to fall back on.
But I will say this, I did go to college for church ministries.
Okay.
I'm back into pursuing that after a real bad relationship, because I didn't finish college because of that relationship. But, this path has really helped me personally with my prayer life. I realized that you're not going to power your way through every situation in your life. But sometimes you got to let go and let God do it.
But you can't just do it on your own.
Exactly.
And I mean, it makes sense if you're delving so much in dealing with this kind of darkness. You've got to have the other side helping you out.
Yeah.
And
I'll be honest with you, there's been a few cases, unfortunately, that you kind of get blackballed by people at your church, you know, and
I'm sure it's viewed as kind of a controversial subject at times.
it is, but a lot of them don't ask me, try to figure out why I'm doing it. And a lot of times that I've been involved with this, especially with removing items and stuff like that, there's been a lot of people that I've been able to witness to and help. That in most cases, pastors won't leave behind the pulpit, won't leave the church to go out and help people. That's the way I look at it.
Kind of opens doors for you to get in there and talk to them.
The only person I have to worry about explaining myself to is up there, and that's it.
There you go.
And I believe people were put in your life for reasons.
Well, I think personally, I'd rather have this kind of things in the hands of somebody like you, who's able to deal with it and has, kind of that knowledge and background, than who knows what it could be doing out there with people who have no idea what's going on.
Right. I mean,
so,
I greatly appreciate that. There's just a lot of items here that, I have some of the best friends anyone can ask for because of them, and we don't all share the same religion, the same faith. They don't badger me about it, I don't badger them about it, but,
yeah,
that's what friendships are all about.
Well, I know if we run across anything, we know now where to send it to.
Look me up, man, I'll take it.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell everybody about the museum, anything like that?
Well, right now we are located in Cameron, West Virginia. We are currently looking at a location a lot closer to Moundsville or Wheeling, preferably. Just makes it easier for people to actually find the museum. So, with that said, any and all updates, regardless if it's the potential new location or if you want to get a hold of me for items to be donated, check us out on Facebook, Archive of the Afterlife. Also there, you have access to our website through the Facebook page.
And we'll link those down in the description in case anybody wants to check that out.
And definitely check out my friends and I's YouTube channel, Paranormal Quest. And
I'm definitely going to go watch that one about the doll. That sounds, yeah.
There's two about the doll. The brick that's up there in the dark room, that's a good one. That's a two-parter. That brick was taken from a Goetic summoning circle out of the attic of the Moon River Brewery in Savannah, Georgia.
That sounds fascinating.
That was a trippy investigation. That was crazy. That was fun.
Well, thank you so much for your time,
hey,
sir. I can't wait to come back again.
You're always welcome.
Thank you so
Stop
much.
Anytime.
Well, guys, that's all the time we have for today. My name is David, and this has been Abnormal Voyages. Thanks for tagging along. We'll see you in the next one.